Hello, and welcome to Rocket Fuel, your daily update of everything that's happening in the Rocket Pool community. And now Ethereum. My name is Wack. Today is April 16th. It's going to take a couple of days for me to get used to changing the intro there a little bit. But today is April 16th, and we're going to cover a whole lot of Rocket Pool and Ethereum news. The Rocket Pool side, we're going to be talking about the Saturn 1 timeline and how that might have changed. On the Ethereum side, we're going to be talking about Pectra, what's included in there, a refresher for you all. We're going to be talking about tomorrow's All Core Devs call. We're going to be talking about Fidelity, potentially building on Ethereum, and a whole lot more. So let's get started.
10, 9, ignition sequence start, 6.
Okay, so we're going to start here with this question that Slickrick brought up, and MadMat kind of carried on the conversation. So Slickrick said, like, this was part of a different conversation that was going on, and he says, wasn't there going to be a migration process pretty soon after Pectra, or is it after Saturn 1? And MadMat says it's for Saturn 1. And for those of you who don't remember, Saturn 1 will include 4 ETH validators and something called mega pools instead of mini pools. And this is a new contract system that will let you manage all your validators from one contract instead of the current form where we have a separate contract for every validator. It's much more capital efficient. It's much more, not capital efficient. It allows us to be more capital efficient. It is also more gas efficient and a whole lot of other things as well. So it's really, really exciting. The problem is that to get onto a mega pool, you will have to exit your mini pools and rejoin as a new mega pool, and all your new validators, all your old validators will then have to be exited and brought back in as mega pools. So that is going to be churn for the whole protocol pretty much for people who want to do that. It's not, you don't have to do it. It's not guaranteed to do it, but it's not necessary to do it, but it's going to be very, very beneficial for you to do it. So there's going to be a bunch of other things in Saturn 1 as well, like universal parameters and how those are going to change. Node operator share, voter share, and our ETH commission. That's going to be adjustable values. And then also we're going to have a new queue system and upgrade guardrails as well. So there's going to be some really exciting things coming in Saturn 1. Now, Slickrick then asked, is this going to be sometime in the summer or later? And MadMat said, I believe the plan is for the summer for Saturn 1, but the plans and smart contract development are not going well together. Now, the reason why MadMat said this is because the Devnet 2 was supposed to be launched at the end of March. It obviously hasn't been launched yet, and we are in the middle of April now. Devnet 3 is supposed to be launching at the end of April, but we haven't even had Devnet 2 yet. So the idea is that, we're at least a couple of weeks out from development, and with that timeline shifting, it's likely MadMat thinks that we won't have Saturn 1 until the end of the summer rather than the middle of the summer, like July, basically. However, digging into the Discord a little bit, we find that Langas actually a couple of weeks ago, about 8 days ago on April 4th, was talking about Devnet 2, and he says that it's been deployed in Houston on Hoodie, the new testnet that was brought up because the previous testnet died because of the mass slashing event. Anyway, he says that they're still setting it up with the parameters, smoke tests, etc. SmartNode 1.6.0 dev will support the new DevNet when it's ready. It says we'll let you know when people can deploy mini pools or if they want. And then it says we'll deploy the Saturn code once that code is complete. And then he says, just a heads up, Hoodie deposits are very, very slow. He says my testnet ones are in the 8-day queue. So with the 8-day queue, that actually takes us to today. So it looks like Langas' validators should be on today. So then they can start testing Saturn, the DevNet. They can go through the DevNet on there. And hopefully it means that, Sunday night, maybe Monday morning, this is just my speculation, we should have DevNet 2 running. Now, in terms of how this is impacting the timeline, we're going to be pretty much 3 weeks late by that point, if that's when DevNet 2 is launched. Now, sadly, the testnet stuff has been an absolute nightmare for everyone to work with, and it has not been fun to work with that. So, the testing environments were completely screwed up. Sadly, that was out of the control of the team and everyone. So there's not much that we can do about that. In previous calls, Langas has said that we should be able to make up some time compared to, the time that we've lost because of DevNet 1 being a week late and now DevNet 2 being at least 2 weeks late on top of that 1 week late already. He said that we should be able to make up some time with later devnets. Now I don't know what stage of development devnet 3 is at. I would presume that Kane and others have been working on that stuff quite diligently, and it should be ready to go, hypothetically speaking. But I don't know when that's going to be released. Technically, it should be released by the end of April. If devnet 2 does come out this weekend, which there's a chance it will, I wouldn't be surprised if devnet 3 we get it hopefully in the first week of May, and then that could potentially put us back on track-ish. I don't know how optimistic that is or not though, so let's see what happens. But yeah, I think a lot of the delays that we're seeing right now were not because of the coding issues, but because of Hoodie basically, and the restrictions that everyone's going through with that. Okay, so we've got some staking news here, and this news is a new client release from Bisu, and this is version 25.4.1, and this is a Pectra mainnet ready release. So this is a mandatory update. You must update your mainnet node before the activation in Pectra. This is scheduled for April 7th, like 3 weeks from now, and basically what you should know is that there will be other updates, to Bisu, I'm sure, going into the last minutes before Pectra. Like, it's always quite common that you get a flurry of updates, in the last week, even leading up to the day before the event of the hard fork. But yeah, here there's some known issues. It says the configuration overview printed in log contains the long version instead of the usual short version. This hasn't impacted any functionality. And then there's long version data there as well. And then there's some upcoming breaking changes and other things as well. So I think, as far as I know, this is the first Pectra mainnet release. So if you are a Bisu user, you can now switch to being Pectra ready on 25.4.1. However, I wouldn't rush to update to this. I know it says mandatory, but it means mandatory before May 7th. But yeah, I'm sure there'll be other versions. And as always, if you're a Rocket Pool node operator, you could just wait for the new smart node version to come out, which we'll probably have a flurry of updates there as well, upgrades there as well for you, depending on what clients you're using. Okay, let's move on to some Ethereum news now, and talking about Bisu being Pectra ready, the latest version. Let's actually just talk about Pectra and what's going to be in it. So here, Scroll Research put a really nice thread about what's going into Pectra. So it says it ships 11 impactful EIPs, bringing double the data availability capacity with the blobs going up, major UX improvements. I think this is one of those areas that people aren't aware of, because people keep saying things on crypto Twitter and other places, and it's like, guys, if you know what's going into Pectra, like, this is going to be a solved issue within a few weeks, hopefully. And then enhanced core protocol security and utility. So let's have a look. So you all know that the core protocol enhancements, so that's going to be EIP 6110, that's the responsibility for deposit inclusion. 6251, that's the max effective balance. So the minimum you will still need to stake is 32 ETH, but now you could have up to 2048 ETH as the maximum on your one validator. So you'll be able to join your existing validators into one validator. The most amazing thing about this, of course, is that you can start compounding your rewards. If you're not skimming them, it will compound, which is pretty amazing to see. And then there's a EIP 7691, that's doubling the blob capacity. So EIP 7251, I think that's quite famous in the staking circles. EIP 7691 is the most famous one, I think, in the wider circles. So here, Scroll talk about why the blob capacity matters. And then this is the one that I want to spend a minute talking about. So here's boosting account abstraction, AA, and this is EIP 7702. And here it says introduces a smooth upgrade path for EUAs to account abstraction wallets, enabling gas sponsorship, biometric authentication, and richer user experience. And it says this paves the way for mass adoption of account abstraction, bringing self-custody and Web 2-like user experience all under one roof. Now, what the most amazing thing here is that you can, what you can get here is basically it'll go away that you will have approve and approval as a separate transaction on your ERC20s or your NFTs or whatever, and then an actual transaction. So that 2 transaction step will actually just go to a 1 transaction step. And that, a lot of people have kind of joked about how, well, not joked about, some of them have said it seriously, about how you have Solana's user experience is so much better. And one of the things that I mentioned why it's better is because of this one-step process instead of a two-step process that we have in Ethereum. Well, that is going to be abstracted away now. And on the back end, they'll still have the two steps, but on the front end, you will just have that one step now where you press a button and your transaction will go through. And on the back end, you'll have two transactions going through, one for approval and one for the actual transaction, and you'll be done. Now, that I think is going to be an absolutely huge user experience improvement, and that is something that I'm really looking forward to. On mainnet, it means that your transactions will look like they've taken a little bit longer because it'll need to have two transactions going through on the back end, and then you'll see the result on the front end, right? So it'll take 12 plus 12 seconds potentially, depending on how much gas you're paying. And on layer twos, though, is where this will really shine. So in places like Arbitrum, where you have sub-second blocks, like 400 milliseconds base, I think in a couple of weeks' time is going to have 250 millisecond blocks. That is where you're going to see it like really shine. So for example, if you are on base buying an AI agent token, you will press the button, and within a second, you'll press the button to sell, for example, an AI token, AI agent token. Or if you're swapping one ERC20 into a different ERC20, you'll just press the button once and it will do it all really nicely. Maybe in the future we'll actually even see it so you don't even have to press your wallet, and that would be even better. Like with the button just saying mint or buy or send or whatever on the front end, and you just press it and then it'll do it. There's a long way towards having safety for users in those kind of transactions. We'll have to do a whole bunch of education about how people should and shouldn't be signing transactions under this new system, because the bundling of transactions could also mean that if you are getting phished, then you could get or if you're getting if you've gone to a bad site that has compromised, there could be really bad consequences of that. So that's going to be on us to like educate new users about it. But in terms of like regular day-to-day user experience, it's going to get really good really quickly, and that's going to be awesome to see. There's a whole lot more as well here about like security improvements and EIP 7002, which is going to allow exits from the execution layer, which is going to help Rocket Pool scale in Saturn 1. So having those forced exits that we're going to be using in Saturn 2 actually will let us bring our collateral requirements down to 1.5 ETH for validator number 3, 4 and onwards. So there's going to be some really, really cool stuff coming with that as well. And we've talked about that on Rocket Fuel a whole bunch of times in the past. It's kind of a technical thing, mostly for staking services. So here what scrolls say is that it enables validator withdrawals by cold addresses, making recovery possible without active keys, allowing decentralized LST providers like Lido and Rocket Pool to significantly simplify their threat models. Yeah, which is why we'll be able to have more efficient collateral. So that's really awesome. Okay, tomorrow is the all core devs call for consensus, and this is call 155, and Nixo has the agenda for the meeting. So Nixo has suspiciously quiet agenda. They're going to be confirming the Pectra mainnet clients release readiness and finalizing Fusaka's considered for inclusion, the EIPs. The fork scope is a soft final with a couple of items needing cleanup. So here there'll be Pectra updates, a reminder for client teams, and are we looking good? Then with Fusaka, there's a draft pull request and some other information as well. And then, yeah, there's more about Fusaka. So yeah, there's really cool progress happening with Fusaka already. It looks like the devs are definitely getting into the Fusaka mindset. And it looks like, Pectra hopefully should go through without a hitch. Pectra should have happened by now, and I think the Fusaka stuff would have been a couple of weeks further ahead, but because of the testnet issues that I was mentioning earlier, we need to we're just here now. So yeah, that was because of Haleshki, of course, dying pretty much for stakers. It means that we can't test all the stuff, so that has delayed everything by a few weeks, but I think that everything is looking good and full steam ahead. Okay, Leo here was not the only person to report on this, but I just wanted to give a shout out to Leo as well. So here Leo posts Fidelity is casually hiring Ethereum devs, also launching their own stablecoin. He says, but I show all those Twitter experts saying Fidelity is building on my coin, not Ethereum. Yeah, you're totally right. And then the eye rolling emoji. But anyway, there's a screenshot here from a job listing from Fidelity, and it looks like they are hiring developers for blockchains. So it says that the dev they're looking for should have familiarity with blockchains such as Ethereum, and with other blockchains as preferred, and familiarity with protocols such as Aave, Uniswap as a plus. So they are looking for people to build out their product, their stablecoins, and it looks like, if they follow the BlackRock guide, that will be mostly happening on Ethereum, maybe little bits and pieces outside of Ethereum. Now, another thing that I wanted to mention was the reason why I brought up Leo's post here is because Leo's someone who actually just came onto my radar like a little while ago, and he's been putting out some really cool content. So I can't like vouch for Leo, but he's definitely putting out some really cool content. So you should definitely check out the stuff that he's sharing. And one of the things was really interesting was this video that he put out that kind of caused a little bit of a splash and a lot of comments. And this is over like yesterday evening, and it says Ethereum to $80,000. So you think Kathy Woods thinks ETH could hit $20 trillion market cap by 2030, but the charts, liquidity, and institutional pulse suggest it may come much sooner. Global liquidity is rising, ETH BTC ratio is reversing, and tokenization is going exponential. He says, "Are you ready for the super cycle?" So he's definitely like quite hypey in this video, but I think that the ETH bros, we've been down bad like so much that it's nice to get a dose of like hopium sometimes. So he's like, using technical analysis charts and like all of this kind of stuff that, is kind of mumbo jumbo, pretty much. But it's nice to just get, people who are putting out bullish content and putting out bullish ideas. And, talking about Ethereum in a really positive way, in a confident way. Like, I really feel like there's so many people who aren't like Ethereum, people who've been in Ethereum for a really long time just aren't seeing or just posting positives about Ethereum. We really need more of that. And Leo has been doing a really cool thing. He's been doing really well with that recently. So I really want to give Leo a shout out. But of course, I'm not endorsing him or anything like that, if that makes sense. I haven't been following him for too long myself, but yeah, definitely have a look. Okay, and that's what we have there. Okay, Taiko. So Taiko is a roll-up on Ethereum. It's the first one to say that they want to do based roll-ups, and the base rollup has the layer 1 as its sequencing. So Taiko's still got a way to go before they're fully stage 2 and stuff. But what they want is for Taiko to be a base rollup, and that has limitations because with base rollups, it takes Ethereum 12 seconds to do a slot, and in L2 land, 12 seconds is way too long for people to get their transactions through. So they're getting new technology kind of put in place, which is Commit Boost and Fabric, and they're using that to accelerate pre-confirmations. You might have seen it as preconfs, people talking about it. It's basically using like economic securities to say that you'll get your block, your transaction will be guaranteed to be in the next block, and you'll get that confirmation much sooner than 12 seconds. You'll get that within a quarter of a second, like 250 milliseconds or 400 milliseconds. So a fraction of a second, you'll get that confirmation that your transaction will be in the next block. And then because of the economic, security that they have, that's a guarantee that they're giving you, and they'll get punished if it's not included in the next block. So this is really cool technology that is being used more widely. And Taiko, being a base rollup, definitely needs to use pre-confirmations before we can get the slot times lower on Ethereum L1, potentially down to 4 seconds and then maybe around to 2 seconds. But even in the 2-second world, those pre-confirmations will be really valuable for getting users to feel like their transactions are happening instantly, even though it might be a little bit of time before they're on Ethereum, confirmed like in the blobs there. So this is really cool that they're pushing things forward. I really want to see more roll-ups, getting to stage 1, like Taiko is still stage 0. I want them to get to stage 2, hopefully by the end of this year. It looks like Arbitrum are the ones that are furthest ahead in this process. Hopefully they can kind of like light the way for the rest of the Ethereum community and all the roll-up community. I think that if Arbitrum do reach stage 2, then I will most likely be moving most of my crypto onto Arbitrum, or whichever one is the first one to become a stage 2. So yeah, this is really cool stuff. Good job, Taiko guys. Okay, moving on to some other news now. I'm bringing up this China tariff stuff. Like, I know you've heard everyone talking about tariffs, but I want to talk about it in a slightly different way. So in the last few weeks, it seems like the tariffs have been the only thing people have been talking about. And here Crypto Guru says that, well, okay, let me just give a quick recap. Donald Trump says that he's going to put tariffs on every country in the world pretty much. And then a few days later, he stepped those back, saying there's going to be a 90-day pause, except for China. And on China, he's going to add more tariffs and make it, because they reciprocated with the initial tariffs. Now, that has started a little tit for tat trade war kind of thing between China and the US, where the US has now said there's a 245% tariff on China. That basically blocks pretty much every single export from China to the US, because that tariff is just astronomically high. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning this is because the previous tariff stuff actually had a lot of impact on crypto prices as they were announced. However, this announcement of the 245%, I don't think made any waves at all. Now, there's other stuff that's happening in the markets today, such as Jerome Powell talking about the Fed's mandate and how their dual mandate is of controlling inflation and of controlling unemployment, and how that's going to come into tension probably this year because of inflationary pressures from the tariffs. So there's other stuff happening in the markets today that means things, prices are kind of down a little bit, but the tariff stuff itself directly now, it seems like, people are just kind of like braced for this and just expect it. So it seems like some of this tariff stuff is being priced into the market now. And it might be that, with some kind of easing or some kind of path forward, it might be that, we might be in a much better situation later. So let's see what happens. Okay, I'm going to talk about Bitcoin for a second and Bitcoin mining. So people talk about Ethereum and how Ethereum block building is centralized, staking is centralized, and what the issues with that are. Now, the reality is that there's different stacks of Ethereum block building, and they have different levels of centralization and decentralization, with some areas needing improvement. However, this Bitcoin statistic that I saw today was actually quite shocking to me. So it says in the Bitcoin mining landscape with proxy like Antpool and friends, 6 mining pools produce and mine more than 95% of the block templates. So Bitcoin mining is highly centralized today. Now, Bitcoiners will tell you that if any of these entities were doing anything to attack the network, then what they would do is, people who are delegating their mining hash power to those mining pools, they would take it somewhere else. But we've seen in reality that doesn't always happen as quickly as you'd like. But this number was actually really, really high. I think this is the highest I've seen it for such a concentrated amount. And even the the top 2 are around 60%, which is just like absolutely like insanely centralized. So yeah, you can dig into these numbers here. B10C have given out the data. Proxy pools, not Lools. Yeah, given out the data, so you can go and dig into that a little bit more. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention, just in case you hear some Bitcoiners say that Ethereum is centralized. Okay, and then finally, I'm going to enter this episode with this warning from Nick.eth. And Nick says that he was recently targeted in an extremely sophisticated phishing attack. I want to highlight it here. Exploit some vulnerability in Google's infrastructure, and given their refusal to fix it, we're likely to see a lot more. And here's the email I got. So the email that Nick got was from noreply@accounts.google.com. So it looks like, it's a legitimate Google domain. It's at google.com. And basically it's saying that your account is getting subpoenaed, and you need to, basically it's going to be like, go to this website and get the information. And the website that it's telling you to go to is sites.google.com. So that looks legitimate as well. And basically trying to get get start an attack on you. Now, people in the Rocket Pool community, one person in the Rocket Pool community also got this an email like this from an account that looked like it was from Google. So please be careful about any email that you get. If anyone is saying that your account has been locked or anything like that, please be careful. Like, it likely is that they're trying to attack you at that moment. So yeah, be aware of that. Now, Nick here goes into details of how you can check, kind of gives you some information about what you can look at with the email being legitimate or not. But yeah, this is kind of scary. So the attackers are getting really sophisticated, and we all need to up our games as well to be kind of in response to that. But on that note, I'm going to end today's episode. So thank you all for watching, listening, and being part of the Rocket Fuel community. I hope you all have a lovely day ahead, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.